Well, hi, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal, and we are live on a Friday lunchtime, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with feelings. And today, what I wanted to talk about is just the feeling of being able to see life in a positive way, regardless of what is going on. When I say a positive way, all right, it's being able to reframe everything and have appreciation for all that you have got rather than get bogged down in what's going on and how bad it is. Rather look at it and uh, constantly find ways to appreciate what you have got. And the reason that I say that is it's so easy at the moment to get caught up with, the very high price of gas. Um, the cost of living has gone up exponentially, it's just skyrocketed. And it isn't, you know, I just want you all to know it's not to do with any one person, right? It's happening across the world. And I'm hoping that as we talk about things, you will understand how lucky we are rather than it's not fair, that this is happening to me. It is what it is. And as usual, I would say, remember that it is what it is a really important mantra to keep saying to yourself, because what it does is it cuts out all the negativity. If you can see something going wrong and just go, okay, but it is what it is, let me just move on. You will be amazed how different your life feels. Hi there, Jeannie. Good to see you. Jodie's going to be a little late today. She did give me a heads up. She's having a little bit of technological problem, I believe, and boy, do I relate to that. So, how many of you agree that you're being asked to spend less, but everything costs more? So, even if you're cutting down on stuff, it still ends up that you end up paying more than you wanted to. So, my question to you all is, you know, how do you view the world at the moment? Do you see it in a positive light? Are you grateful and happy to be alive? Or are you getting caught up in the it's not fair sort of thing? And the reason that I want you to think about it is because it will change your life and it will change the way that your body copes with your health. And that is what I'm interested in, which is how is your mental health working at the moment? Sorry, I'm just trying to get something up on my phone here. And of course, it's not doing what I want it to do, but that's normal. All right. So, um, for those of you who don't know, Dear Mama Sal is not just me, it's a group of people who get together. And we get together 3 times a week to talk about life. And the reason that we do that is because we want to make sure that you understand it's not just your life that has a problem. Everybody has problems, and how we deal with it is what gives us character and gives us a great way to cope with life. Yes, Jeannie's saying she's happy to discover that she doesn't have a blood clot. Um, yeah, and Jeannie, I think the fact that you went to have an ultrasound is scary, and I'm sure that you, at one point, feared the worst on that, and now you are very grateful to find out that you don't have one. So I believe, if I am correct, that what you're grateful for is that we have the technology to be able to identify that. Imagine in the days before that technology. So you're grateful to find that out, and think about all the countries perhaps that don't have that ability, or the old story. You're in the top 5% of the world, however poor you are right now. You're in the top 5% of the world. If you live in North America, I would suggest that if you can, afford to have healthcare, if you can afford, think about all those things and go, your life really is what we see it to be. It is not what it is. Somebody once said that the truth is there is no truth. It is our perception of what is true. All right, a difficult one to think about, but true. Change your perception of things, and you will change your reality. I would suggest that some of us know that one better than others. You see, what builds character is, in fact, um, the things that go wrong in your life. Did you know that? That's what builds character. That's what builds strength of character. And I look at it and I say to myself, I am grateful to have lived my life, good and bad, because it has given me the character that I have. And it gives me the way to look at the world that I have. How, although every now and then, like everybody else, I overwhelm on it, but, most of the time I am able to shift my thinking enough that I can see the better good in it. All right, just to let you know, as far as I know, hi there, Jody, by the way. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. That's where we make changes to any broadcasts or anything that are going on. I'd like to acknowledge Misty's birthday, I think, is tomorrow. No, today. It's today. Happy birthday, Misty. Woof woof. Misty being Jeannie's Wheaton Terrier. Beautiful dog. And I know that you've got a sad week this week, Jody. Believe that you've got the anniversary of your mum passing in a couple of days. And so then I also want to just remind you all, talking of Misty and pets, please, please, if you are in the Northern Hemisphere and suffering from very high heat at the moment, please be very aware. If you are struggling, then so is your dog or cat or gerbil or parakeet, whatever it is that you own. Remember that they need as much extra water as you do. You remember that they need to have a fan on them as well, if possible. All right, if you don't have air conditioning for the house. So please be very, very careful about that. How many of you agree with this adage, which is a person who feels appreciated does more than is expected of them? All right? A person who is appreciated is inclined to do more than is expected of them. For those of you who've worked in your lifetime, I'm pretty certain that some of you can remember a boss that was grateful and how much extra you did for them, rather than somebody who was not grateful and did not appreciate who you were and what you did. So remember that it's an important thing to bear in mind. And I found this quote here, and it said, "We think we see the world as it is, when in fact we see the world as we are." Does that make sense? We see the world as we are. Jeannie is adding that Misty got bacon for her birthday. And, it's just like, how many of you laugh at that one? And also, she was saying that when she had the ultrasound done, she made sure that she told the technician that they did a good job. I didn't know that you were an ultrasound technician. Or do you mean that she did a good job of looking after you? All right, because you understand it depends which way you look at that. Did you compliment her on doing a good job of being an ultrasound technician? I don't think so. I think what you thanked her for and told her she did a good job was looking after you, with whatever was going on in your life. And again, do you understand that that's what we're talking about? Yes, Judy's saying she thanked her for doing a good job of looking after her. She was kind. And there's another word, all right, that what is kind? Do you understand? It depends what your perception of that word is as to whether that's a good thing. And so I would ask you, what is kind? All right. Because you can say to somebody, I want to thank you for doing a good job, when really, if you keep breaking it down, Jeannie, and I'm not trying to criticize in any way, I'm just saying, think about, did you add the words, thank you for doing such a great job of looking after me. I really appreciated da 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 da. I've got a feeling you probably did because you're that sort of a person. I think you all know that my mantra to myself these days is I choose to be peaceful. I choose to be peaceful. Jeannie's saying, by the way, I did work with several radiation technicians years ago at University Hospital in Boston. So you have some knowledge of the technical side. All right. Now, obviously, that is an interesting perception, that you have some knowledge just because you worked. It was, like I spent some of my life, uh, working in a law office. It was a great eye opener to me. I learned a lot about the law, but does that make me a lawyer? No. Does that tell me what a good lawyer is? And is a good lawyer somebody that is good for their clients or good to their staff? Because again, it depends which way you look at it as to which is true. So I want to just now talk to you a bit about how we see the world and what happened to me this week. And also I've got some things here from Jody and obviously Jeannie talking about her experience at the ultrasound. It's really important to understand that everything that happens to us, we get to choose how we see and react to it. All right. It is not right or wrong. Our perception of what it is, and it affects how we feel about it. Jeannie's saying a good technician tries to relax the patient while doing his or her job. Right. But the interesting thing is, from my experience, Jeannie, that isn't it strange that the people who reach the top of that tree may not be the most customer friendly, if you like. All right. They are probably technically uh, very good at diagnostics or whatever from ultrasound rather than being very patient oriented. So there's somehow, I think, as a patient, you want the person who is a good people person, whereas technically, as we know, there's a reason why we got the term nerds in our time, right? They are people who are technically brilliant. Yeah, and Jeannie's saying in her day, when she was working with those technicians, they were working with some terminal cancer patients. And, I am certain that some of them even queried why they were even being scanned, if they knew they were terminal already. And, it's again a perception. Some people want to know and some people don't. Here's a quote that I saw as well, which said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. I'm thinking about, Jeannie, before you had the ultrasound done, you probably were suffering more from what your mind was conjuring up that could be wrong, versus what you found out once you got the answer. And that would be quite normal as well. Jody has gone through a series of um, very difficult things going on for her. And I am pretty certain she will tell you that she likes it when she can go and get knowledge, right? Because once she's got the knowledge, she knows what to do. Once she's got the knowledge, she knows what to do. And I've just managed to nuke my program here. Hold on a second. Then I can concentrate again. Um, so I made this whole affirmation, if you like, uh, that I was going to choose to be peaceful in my life, as you know, from now on. I had some things happen recently that took me out of balance, and I could feel the effect it was having on my body. But I want to tell you, back in June, I managed to do something that tripped a breaker in my fuse box. And like everybody else, you know, I took a trip to the fuse box, and took me a while to see which breaker had actually broken, uh, or tripped. And I, you know, went to go and push it back again, and it wouldn't push back. And it was really interesting because for a while I thought, that's a nuisance. And then I found out that one breaker, it was a double breaker, unfortunately, controlled my air fryer, my microwave, my magic bullet, which is right there, the small one there next to the Keurig, and also my toaster oven underneath the computer here, obviously my computer. And so it not only affected things on that side of the kitchen, but also this side of the kitchen. And the reason is because those two lines were together. And that's why it was a double breaker. So how do you think I felt about that? Do you think I need my microwave? Well, do you know anybody who doesn't have a microwave? All right. And I say that because I know, for example, that Benji doesn't have a microwave in his kitchen. And when I first um, visited him, I'm going, how can you not have a microwave? And so when my breaker went, it was at the same time as I was spending a lot of money on re-roofing my shed. So what I decided was to do some research and find out how much it was going to cost me to get an electrician. And I knew it was going to cost me about $300. So what I decided was not to do it immediately, to learn to live without those two lines, those two sockets. The one that is actually, there's a socket on this side. No? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. There's a socket underneath that glass fry pan lid behind there, and the one that is here that you can't see. And it was interesting to do without. How many of you know you don't really appreciate things until you do without them? All right, whether that's human beings or whatever. By the way, Jeannie's saying she told her husband what to do if she died. You felt scared. All right, that's, you know, that's, I think, perfectly normal. He was not hearing any of that, although because he was too upset. Yes, I want to tell you something, Jeannie. I always, if ever I go in for an operation, doesn't matter how small it is, anytime they're going to have to put me under, I make sure that I talk with somebody so they know what my wishes are, right? And people say to me, oh, how morbid is that? And I go, no, I see that as well organized. You see, what the person I talk to is the person who's probably going to pick up the pieces, right, of what's left of my stuff and my legalities and all that sort of thing. I think that's the very least I can do. And you know, the interesting thing is the person that I pick to do that is somebody that doesn't get caught up with the emotion. So I don't waste a lot of time explaining why I'm talking to them. I just go, hey, I got to go in for an operation. Just so you know, this is where my my passport is, this is where this is, this is where this is. Um, just a reminder so that you know if you need to find anything. You know, this is where my legal documents are, whatever. And she already knows, but I want her to know I haven't, you know, had a tidy up and changed anything over. So what amazed me was how easy it was to live without my microwave after a couple of days. Now, I say after a couple of days because first thing you keep going to it automatically, and then you go, no, no, wait a minute, that's not working, right? But after a couple of days, you know it's not working, so you don't keep going there. So that to me was interesting, that I managed to get over the fact that I didn't have a microwave in just a couple of days. So, what is your most valued appliance? All right. Let me know what appliance in your kitchen would you say is the most useful to you? And the reason I ask that is because when you've lost two sockets, two double sockets in your kitchen, you understand you need to get pretty picky about what you now plug in. All right. And it's one of the reasons I had to reorganize my kitchen to some degree, was because I needed to make sure that the socket I did have was working with the appliances that I really did need. So I knew for a fact that my computer here that I'm talking to you from, that's a pretty important thing. So I had to find a way to connect that, even though the plug for it was fried. And what I did was I just brought in an appliance grade extension cord that would carry that. It also carried the light for my little indoor garden here. Right. So Jeannie's saying the thing she appreciates most in her kitchen would be her refrigerator and her gas stove. All right. Now, the funny thing is, Jeannie, for me, my oven is one of the least valued things in my kitchen. Isn't that interesting? For you, your gas range is, but for me, it is one of the least necessary. Why? I've got so many gizmos, right? I do most of my cooking, as you know, in my air fryer because I'm just cooking for one most of the time, and it's so quick. There's definitely you don't realize it until you use it, just how quick it is. Obviously, my coffee maker is very important. So I would say, what's really important to me, they're there and there. All right. Judy's saying she doesn't have an air fryer. No. And, it's one of those things that I didn't realize how much I could cook in my air fryer until I got it. And it is just one of those things that you learn. And if you do a lot of baking and things for other people, which I know you do, you're probably the oven is a very important appliance to you. But what I found out was it was not as important as those two things and my computer, right? So it was like a triangle, these and this. Those are the things I really needed. I so it, the fact that I had to do some things, actually my oven still worked. I was quite lucky about that. My oven wasn't affected because it was plugged into the heavy duty stuff. So that was good. All right, let me give you another quote here. Um, I would maintain, this is from G.K. Chesterton, by the way. I would maintain that thanks are the highest form of thought, and that gratitude is happiness doubled by wonder. Um, I am pretty certain, because I know you fairly well, Jeannie, that even if the outcome of your ultrasound had been negative, you would still have felt the same way about the person who did the test, right? What you didn't link the two together, right? You were just grateful that she was kind to you, and that made you feel better. So I want to go back to my story about the electrician. They asked me particularly whether I wanted a particular time frame, and the one I agreed on was between 1 and 4. So that morning I was putzing around. Luckily, I was dressed. I was putzing around trying to get things tidied up in my house when at 11:45, there was a bang on my door. And I went to the door and I thought, who the heck's that? Because I know it's not the electrician. They're not coming till 1 o'clock. And who should be standing there but the electrician? What is your immediate reaction? I want to know whether we all feel that immediate reaction. And I sort of looked at him and I said, yes. And he said, oh, I'm Peter the electrician. I said, no, you can't be. He's not coming until 1 o'clock. However, I got over that thought pretty quickly. And then I realized I needed to make a decision. I had a choice. I could tell him to go away and come back at 1 o'clock. That was my right, all right, because that was the appointment time. Or I could let him in. And so in that split second, I got rid of that negativity about what the heck are you doing here? It's an hour and a half early, or an hour and a quarter. I got rid of that and went immediately to, well, if he starts sooner, that means he'll be finished sooner, and I have more freedom once he's gone. Does that make sense? I was able to see it a different way. So I laughed and said, well, I guess you're here. Come on in. Let me show you what's going on. And when I opened up the fuse box panel, I said to him, just so you know, this breaker tripped, and 4 of us, I think 3 or 4 of us, have been unable to reset it, because I'm pretty sure you're going to think it's user error. I don't know how to reset a breaker. Well, I've had 3 or 4 people, 3 other people other than myself, tell me the same thing, because they walked in and let me show you how to do that, Sal. So I went, okay. How many of you know that one? Let me show you how to do that. Okay. People who think you're stupid. People who think you don't know how to reset a breaker at my age. Hello. So you think I haven't had to reset a few breakers in my life. But, the thing is, okay, show me how it's done. Let me see how you do it. Right? So I'm literally, each one, I just went, and they're going, that's weird. And then they hit it the other way and try again, and it still doesn't do it. And, they went, it's broken. I said, yeah, that's what I thought. And then, the next person I told the story to, they said, well, actually, Sal, you just don't know how to reset it. I said, okay. Let me show you. It's quite simple, Jody. You go to your fuse box panel. I presume that you know where that is. And first thing you look for, okay, a picture paints 1,000 words, right? So this is your fuse box, and it's got lots of little things like this, okay? And then it's got these breakers all sitting in this position. Get the idea? They're like little baby handles, Jody. Now, if a breaker has tripped, the handle will be over here. Get the idea? So what you do is, if it's tripped, is you just take that little handle and you push it back to here. And sometimes you need to push it quite hard. And sometimes you need to push it this way, then that way first. Or you need to really push it hard to the left and then hit it again to the right. And then it resets the breaker. Did you learn something today? Now you know how to reset a breaker. So, and thank you for mentioning that, Jody, because, I sort of presume most people have had that experience. So thank you for letting me demonstrate that. So, Jody's saying the box is in the basement, so I'd be in a bind if I needed to do that. I've seen them before, but never had to do it. Right. So the thing is, if it meant life or death, I think you would find a way, right? Could you get to the basement if you really had to? I'm not talking about would you want to, but if it was life and death, could you? All right. And the first thing I would ask, if it happened at night, do you have a way to light your way? I have, as I think all of you know, one of the ways that I deal with life is I have these. These are motion detector lights, and I have them all throughout my house. All right, so that even if in a power failure, look how much light that gives off. Even in a power failure, all right, I've got about 6 of these in the house that will light up. I also have emergency light bulbs that I can turn on. So Jodi's saying no, there's no way she could do it. She can't do the stairs. All right. So what I did was I showed the technician what caused the problem into my best of my knowledge. And then he looked at it all and he said, okay, let me give you a written quote before I start. Now, there's a reason why they do that, because hiring an electrician these days is very expensive. And the quote to fix that problem was close on $300. And that didn't include the price of the new breaker if I needed one, which I was pretty sure I did. Can I ask you, what is your reaction to an electrician charging $300 for an hour? Maybe that was the minimum amount, right? Was 1 hour. And now, it included his traveling time. So I don't know how far he traveled. But, it's like, it's a pretty heavy hit, isn't it? And if you're on a limited budget, which I believe we all are now, can you imagine my reaction to hearing this was going to cost me just under $300? Yes, Jodi's saying I'm in the wrong business. So think about that, and think about the fact, do we have a choice? Yes, my choice is to live without my 2 sockets for the rest of my life, or to spend the money and get it fixed. Now, do you understand, complaining about the price wasn't going to help me at all? All right? That is a set price. And by the way, I got in a highly reputable electrician. I didn't get the local guy from down the street, right? I got a Better Business Bureau type person in. Because if you're going to mess with my fuse box, I'd like to make sure I got the right person doing it. I don't know about you. Then the interesting thing was, once I made the decision, I just went, I need to get it done. So yes, please. But once I knew I had bought his time, the first thing I did is ask him if he could help me move my stove. Why? When I had moved it to try and unplug, you remember that my air fryer was plugged into that plug that is right underneath that glass fry pan lid, right? So what happened was, when I tried to move the oven to, to get to that plug, I forgot to take down that second fry pan lid. Luckily, the glass one was already in my dishwasher, but I'd forgotten to take that one off. And of course, when I moved the stove out this way, all right, that fell behind, and there was no way I could pull that oven all the way out. I guess I could if my life had depended on it, but it would be foolish at my age to be pulling that weight. So the first thing I got him to do was to help me get that lid out, and all I needed was his help to pull the oven out far enough, because it needed to be lifted, because you see this air vent here, all right? It needed to be lifted up and then up, then out, like that. So I'm going, when I've got a man in the house, let me get him to do what I need. So he helped me with that. And then I said, as soon as he got me enough space, I said, okay, I can do the rest, because, I've got one of those long handled grabber things. How many of you got one of these? I cannot tell you how many times in a week I go for this thing. All right. And you imagine I was able to just be able to put this down the back of the oven and literally do a grabby thing like this and pull up my fry pan lid. So really one of those things that doesn't cost a lot of money, but as Jody says, very practical. So then he went off to go and work on the breaker. Now the interesting thing was, he was charming, by the way. He was a nice human. He said to me after a while, "You don't need a new breaker." I said, "Oh." He said, "I don't think so anyway. I'm just going to fix the one you've got." So immediately I thought, that's good. So now I know that it's not going to cost me more than the price I have already paid, agreed to, okay? Because he hasn't got to put any more parts in. And I saw him tweak and do some stuff with the breaker, things that are beyond my pay grade. And then it worked. And he said what had happened was that the breaker had corroded. And my immediate reaction was, how is that possible? I just had the whole house recertified within the last year. All the wiring was recertified. How is it possible that a breaker corroded? And he couldn't give me an answer. He just said it is what the problem was. So, okay. But you understand, if I keep on the why, it's probably going to end up costing me more money. I just went, okay, fine. Do I care? Not really. What I care about is that it works. So that's awesome. And then I realized that he'd only taken about half an hour. How many of you are starting to chuckle now? And I knew that I had paid for an hour of his time. Right? That's the minimum. So I said, well, we haven't used up the hour. I know that. So I wonder if you could help me with another problem while you're here. You see, my perception was I bought an hour of your time. I didn't just buy you to fix the breaker, right? The quote you gave me was for a minimum of 1 hour, so let me use it. Do you all agree? And he laughed and he said, you're right, you haven't used up the hour. So what's the next problem? And I said, it requires that you crawl under my bed, my adjustable bed. All right. And he laughed and said, really? And I said, yeah, I wonder if you would do that. Because my robot vacuum cleaner, I think, has done some mischief with the wiring. I think, he got hold of a wire and pulled it out because the adjustable part of my bed isn't working, and it hasn't been working for a couple of months. So he said, let me see what I can do. So he got under the bed and he played for a while. And then he played a bit longer. And the next thing I knew, my bed was moving. Oh! The head came up and then the feet came up and then it started a massage. And I'm going, I didn't realize how much I like those functions on my bed until they all started to work again. Now, is it perfect? No, I think somewhere he put one thing back in the wrong place. So it took me a little while to work out that instead of zero gravity being that button, it's now this button over here, because I worked it out. When I pressed zero button and the zero gravity and everything went flat, I went, okay, he's plugged something back in the wrong way. Do I really care? No. The main thing is my bed works. That's what I care about. But here is my thinking. You see, the fact that my bed wasn't working wasn't a major issue to me until this heat came in, this very high heat. And I started to get edema, which is where your body retains liquid. And I literally have put on 5 or 6 pounds of water weight since this high heat has come in. And where does it all stay? In my feet. You walk around with like bags of water, all right, which are your feet. And so if you think about it, I hadn't got that fixed that had been broken for way longer than the problem with my breaker. What I did was get a twofer, actually a threefer if you can't being able to get that lid from behind my stove. So for the price of 1 hour, I got this back. I got my breaker fixed, and I got my bed working. But wait, there was more. I got a fourfer. Four for the price of one. Now, this is my tip for the day. One of my tips for the day, in case, other than how to reset a breaker, of course. This is another one. I didn't know this. So in my kitchen, all right, here's the worktop that you're looking at here, and then there's another, work area here. Okay, and so I've got one socket here, one socket here, one socket here, and oh, sorry, this all connects. Very dirty. Hope it's the right pen. Yeah. And so I've got one socket. Funny enough, the socket for this is on the other side over here. It's, I can't get to it here. I've got to go around the corner, but it's here. Now, what blew was this socket here and this socket here. Okay. And I knew that was probably 2 lines. What I didn't realize was that the 2 lines were in fact the double breaker. So I got that information. Now then, what he said to me, remember I said to you that my air fryer kept tripping things, and then I learned do not plug heat producing appliances into an extension cord. All right. That was the first bit of learning I did. But here's what he told me. If each of these sockets is a double socket, which they are, so they've got 1, 2, and a da, 1, 2, and a da, like little faces. All right, do you agree? And this one over here has the same 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. What he said to me, and I didn't know this, if you have got heavy duty pulling appliances, right? Toaster oven, my air fryer, things like that. Never ever put them on the same line. In other words, if I have got my fridges here, that must have its own. All right. So if I have got my air fryer plugged into number 1 here, and if I want to put something that's heat producing in this socket, put it into number 2 on the other one. Did you know that? So don't put them on the same line. I didn't know that. And he said, now it may be that when you go to this socket over here, that you think this is number 1 line, but by the time it got all the way over there, this might have become the number 1 line. So he said, you'll know, because if you trip anything, just work out which one you tripped and then change it. I didn't know that. Did you? Does that make sense? So think about that when you're plugging in high heat type appliances. Alternate the sockets that they're in. So to me, for the price of 1 hour of his time, I not only got what I wanted fixed, which is the breaker, but I also got a whole lot of other things. Can you see that I was grateful for all of that? And I learned a lesson that I didn't know. I was grateful for that as well. Now, The funny thing is, for me, the funny thing was, how much have I used the microwave since I got it back? And it was only when I got the microwave back that I realized what I had missed. And what I had missed was being able to make popcorn. Now, again, if I really, 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 really wanted popcorn, how did they make it before we had a microwave? Right? That's all I had to think about. How did we make it before we had a microwave? Well, they did it on a stovetop. So I could have had it if I really wanted to. If my life depended on it, I could have made popcorn. But it was so nice to be able to just walk over and just put my little popcorn bag in there and enjoy popcorn. And I don't know why it tasted better than I can remember it. Weird, right? So to me, I could really see that waiting that little bit extra ended up paying benefits to me that I didn't expect. Jody was telling me, for example, all right, she's on a new medication, and one of the things they warned her about is, as your body starts to get used to this medication, it could cause nausea and all sorts of other things. Well, that's not fun, is it? But the thing is that she is grateful and has great appreciation for the new medication because, number one, the first dose that they've got her on, it will go up. So far hasn't caused any nausea problems, if I'm correct on that one. But the thing that she's most grateful for is the technology, all right? That they've come up with a medication that does what this medication does. And then she was saying she also thought about all the people in the world that couldn't get it, all right? That don't have the ability to, hello, I got the hiccups now. I don't have the ability to have that kind of medication. And, I think that's a wonderful way to look at it. How many of your medications that you take are you grateful for? All right. That they've actually come up with this. I know that they price them through the roof, but are you grateful that you have healthcare? By the way, if you didn't have healthcare, which medications would you lose? Because you couldn't afford them. And then remember that people had that all the time before it was actually invented. Yeah, Jody's saying how many people would be grateful to have that nausea because it means they'd be able to get the medication. All right. That's the whole thing. All right. It's all about, some people would say, oh, no, I wouldn't want the nausea. And others are going, hey, I'll put up with the nausea if it does the job it's meant to do. Can you see that it's all a perception? It's a small price to pay for what it does. Jody's saying my arthritis injection is over $6,000 per month. All right? Without it, I am bedridden. Yes, so if you didn't have the healthcare benefit, you would not be able to afford that. Jeannie's saying my husband does not always eat enough, but he loves shakes. I'm saving money by making my own shakes for him. We are both grateful. Yes, and boy, I can remember in the days when I thought shakes were for kids. How about you, Jeannie? And the other thing that I'm noticing is I don't feel like I've really had a balanced day if I haven't had one of my protein shakes. It's funny, isn't it? And by that, I use oat milk in my shakes, and I use fruit. It's part of my fruit intake every day. And I put extra fiber in my shakes, right? So it's part of my fiber intake as well. So you look at it and you go, isn't it funny that 10 years ago, if you told me to have a shake, I would have went, yeah, that's for kids. It's not good for you. And how many of you thought that milk was bad for you, right? And those sort of things where you go, actually, it's better than you think. And Jodie's saying, Jeannie, that's so good that you make your own. There are lots of additives and junky stuff to put in that get put into shakes at fast food places. Yeah, I would agree with Jodie that knowing what's in it is really important, right? Knowing that you've got healthy stuff going in it is part of the deal. And I find, when it gets really hot in the late afternoon here, the hottest part of the day is not midday. The hottest part of the day is probably about 3 or 4 o'clock. And in my house, the hottest part of the day is actually about 4 or 5. Jodie's saying that the Fairlife milk has been a game changer for me. It helps me get my protein every day. Yes. And for those of you those of you who don't know what that is, Jodie, it's one of the things I'm really grateful that you taught me. This milk I bought a month ago. I haven't got my glasses on. I bought it a month ago. I only opened it this week, but it's been in my fridge for nearly a month. And, it's still great. How did I not know this? And look at this. It has 50% less sugar, 50% more protein, and the source of 9 essential nutrients. How about that? Well, I want to tell you, Jodie's saying her surgeon recommended it, and I want to tell you, you not only have influenced me into getting it, but you've also influenced everybody I talk to about it. And by the way, I also have the 2% version, and I use that to make my lattes. So, it's just like, and I've got another one that's in the fridge, still unopened. Jeannie's saying in her smoothies for her husband, York, she puts in fruit, regular milk, chocolate ice cream. Otherwise, he might skip a meal. Well, here's the thing. I definitely would put in, always put in a fruit portion, right? That's really good. And Jodie, I think you became an expert at shakes when you were forced to reduce your food intake for your operation, right? And you learned about those protein shakes big time. One of the things you might want to look at, Jeannie, is, just how many variations you can do. Yeah, some avocado. Jodie's adding that. Some avocado in a chocolate shake uh, has great health benefits. By the way, how many of you don't like green juice because of the color? I found that putting my green juice into a container where I can't see the color, it's really strange because there's something about the perception of it being green, and that's yucky. All right. But I quite often will make a green juice, or even if you mix carrot and banana, it's such a great combination, but the color is yuck. It's brown. Right? So I will put that into here. Why? I can't see the color, but boy, can I enjoy the taste. So when I look at it, it's amazing how our perception, right? My perception was that shakes are for children, not for adults. My perception now is shakes are part of my day. Have I had my shake today? And I actually quite often use my shake as almost a dessert thing. Ah, yes. All right. So Jodie's saying she now does the same thing, all right, because of my mentioning it. If you put it into a opaque container, it tricks the brain. It's a great tip. Okay, well, there you go. And so think about that. And, but that's what I found. I loved carrot and banana together. But boy, I didn't like the color. You see, yuck. I hope nobody walks in and sees me drinking this. Don't know why I thought people wouldn't like the color. How many of you have a feeling now about affirmations that, my sort of, it is what it is, move on? All right, is really, if you like, it's a mantra. But how many of you do have affirmations? My affirmation for this week really helped me cope with a lot of things. My affirmation this week to myself was, I choose to live in peace. And it was funny because I was amazed how many different times I realized that when the electrician came an hour and a quarter early, the that part of me that was a time freak went, how dare he do that? I had another hour and a quarter to tidy up and do what, and I thought, I choose to live in peace. So do you want him to come now or not? That's your choice. It is what it is. Move on. And it was amazing how I just was able to make that split second change in my thinking from being really irate as a time freak, really irate about what happened, and then how I managed to just calm down completely. So Jody was saying that it's a really good idea, if you are into affirmations, to actually write one every night when you go to bed, and when you're in bed to write one, and then put it under your pillow. So a number of good reasons for that. Number one, there is something about writing it that puts it into your brain, and then your librarian in your brain can work with it overnight and then file it away if when it wants to. So to me, I look at the fact that my mantra this week was, I choose peace, has really shifted me on a number of things. And it is difficult for anybody to understand, but I want to tell you that there have been a couple of days where, and I'm going to talk about my craft room in a minute, but I chose to go to my craft room at about 1 o'clock in the morning. And the reason I did it was my craft room does not have any electronics in it other than a computer and my cutting machine. And the reason that that was important to me is because I go there to update my day timer. And it's so quiet and so peaceful in there. And it's a wonderful place just to sort of sit and be. And I got some things to show you. Hang on a second. Jeannie's saying, today I made turkey cutlets for dinner. Sounds so good, right? Used cream of mushroom soup, a touch of milk, turkey stuffing, and mustard honey sauce over the turkey. So easy. Yes, I want to tell you that. Did you buy a breast of turkey or turkey cutlets? Okay. I find that it's a wonderful way. And, mushroom soup is the most underrated thing in the world, as far as I'm concerned. It turns any meal into a gourmet meal, right? If you just open it up and put it over there, don't put any water with it, just use it as a cream sauce. Yes, that's what I wondered. Jeannie's saying she bought a breast of turkey and I cut it up. I do that quite often. I've got a roll of turkey that I will be cooking pretty soon, that I like because it's a much better bang for your buck. If you buy a roll of turkey, I like to have just the white meat, and then just slice it up. This is another thing that I found that brings me great peace. I now am in the habit of buying a roast, cooking it, and then cutting it into different shapes. I don't just slice it. I will slice some and have it, either as cold meat or, we'll make some gravy or something and have roast dinner. Or I will cut it in chunks, because what I found out was if I cut it in chunks, I can, bring it out of the freezer in chunks, store it, put it onto a skewer and make kebabs. All right. And I just put a really nice sauce over it and just warm it up. So there was so many different things that you can do with the roast. And tonight I'm going to be cooking a roast while we do some other things, because I've got somebody coming for dinner tomorrow. And so I'm going to do the roast tonight. That's going to upset me now. I didn't know that I got. Oh, it came off good. I was about to show you, but it disappeared. Jody's saying we've got 2 rolls of turkey in the freezer. Thanks for the reminder. It's time to break one. Yes, the reason that I'm going to cook lamb tonight, a leg of lamb, is because it's been in the freezer for over a year. So, I'm going to cook it up. And why? Wade's coming. Wade loves lamb. Now, am I going to make a big deal of it and say, well, I cooked a leg of lamb specially for you? No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it up for me. But what I will do is say, hey, would you like your lamb warmed up or cold? Right? Because that's the choice. And then, be prepared to make all the things to go with it. Now, here's another thing. Jody was saying this week that how much she appreciates her friends, right? Her perception of her friends. And she said, I was humbled by thinking of my wonderful friends and how they understand my challenges in life and make accommodations to include me in their life. So many are forgotten, and I'm terrified of loneliness and fading into oblivion as a statistic. It's up to me to maintain the friendships. You get what you give. I appreciate the internet, and that keeps me connected in this world. I'd otherwise be cut off from the world. How many of you truly appreciate the technology of today? Never mind just the medication technology, but how many of you can truly appreciate the technology that keeps us connected? I know that I've only met a couple of viewers in my time, all right? And as you know, Erin is one of them, and that changed my life because, meeting her with all that goes on in her life, really did have an effect on me and continues to. But, I think being able to have as many friends, we have no excuse to be lonely anymore, right? With the internet. And some of you saying, yeah, but it's not the same. Well, no, but it is what we have. I want to tell you, almost every Friday night after I've done a big cook up and my kitchen is a total disaster area, I will write to Jody and say, do you want to pop over and help me clean up? And the reason I say that is because I know her answer would be yes, if she lived within an hour's journey from me. Yes, Jeannie's saying, I started on Facebook because I wanted to connect with some cousins. And then I connected with Wheaton Terrier owners. And it's lots of fun. Absolutely. And I look at it and go, I did my spring cleaning this week. My challenge is every week to do spring cleaning. In other words, do a deep clean of something in the house. And what I decided was I really needed to do a deep clean in my craft room. But before I tell you about that, Jody's saying that she would come over and help me clean up my kitchen in a heartbeat. And it would be a privilege to clean up, to help you clean up. Well, actually, you wouldn't be allowed to help me clean up, but you would be sitting on the other side of this counter, with the, cold whatever it is that you choose to drink, and talk to me while I do it. Do you know, it's a really peculiar thing. When I came to see this house, this area here, which is, wait a minute. I've often wondered just how wide it is. It is 3 foot and 2 inches deep. All right. That's how deep it is. You can't see it. So there's probably, from the things you can see there, there's another 18 inches of it. Right? When I came to see the house, I stood exactly where I'm standing now, and I leant on this thing like this, and I went, I'm going to spend a lot of time standing right here. I could feel it. When I came to see the house, I could feel that I would spend a lot of time standing right here. But what I didn't realize is I'd be spending a lot of time here because I was going to put a computer in this cupboard. Ah, all right. So Jody's saying, if ever I'm asked what my favorite island is, I will answer the one in Sal's kitchen. It's gorgeous. Yeah, you can understand. And by the way, you know, the fact that it had these incredible self-closing drawers in them. Go on, do you think? Do you think? Oh, don't be like that. Come on. You knew that was going to happen, right? But, you know, it's got, you can't see it, but, you know, it's got these incredible drawers in it that are deep. And remember, if you've got things that are deep drawers, make sure you get containers that are as deep as the drawer to put things in. You will double what you can fit in a drawer if you can do that. I'm trying to think what I've got here. All right, so I've got all my, not all of them, but some of my mixing bowls in here, but it's already sitting on something else, all right? And I've got my tea towels all contained, or most of them contained, in something. That was a trick I learned on one YouTube, not YouTube, yeah, a streaming video. I started to watch it, and boy, did it affect my life, because it says purge it. In other words, if you take a drawer and empty it, purge it first of all, as much as you can. I empty a drawer and try and only put half of it back. Then the next thing is contain it. Don't ever just huck things in. So in this drawer, for example, what I found was, all right, this is a deep drawer. What I found was taking a big bag, plastic bag, and in here I have got all the sort of little bits that normally would end up lost in the bottom. I've got, you know, my corn on the cob things, my piping bags. I've got a zester in here. I've got a banana, you know, when you open up a banana and you want to, what do you call it? Anyway, you could just, you know, have half a banana and keep it fresh. I've got some silicone things, but all within this space. Do you understand? By getting a bag that is deep and filling it up, I get much better use of the space. And that's what I'm learning. I keep all my coffee things for the same reason. Right? What are these coffee containers? You'll be amazed how much you can, you know, fit in one. Whereas normally they'd all be flat. It's not easy to get them out, right? But when you've got it vertically, I can see immediately, there are my scissors, there is my can opener, here is my pizza knife, here is one of the attachments. You know, it's like it's so much easier to see when you're looking at it that way. All right, so now then, I want to go back to the craft room. I decided I wanted to get back to the craft room. Yes, York has a section, this is Jenny saying, of the kitchen just for his coffee pot, coffee beans, filters, etc. Yeah, I have this cupboard where I keep, you know, all my tea and coffee stuff in here. It's a very important thing. But again, look at how you can contain things vertically, right? The more you contain, the more use you will get out of things. Now, first of all, I went into the craft room because I knew it desperately needed a bit of a workover. So I can sit and look at the mess for a long time, or I can get in there and start tidying up. But you know what I found? And I wonder if any of you would agree with this. Being creative, you waste a lot of time. You know what I mean? It's like I can set my printer up to print something or to cut something, but it takes 3 to 6 minutes maybe to cut something complicated. And what do you do while you're waiting? You see, what I thought was, what if I spend this week in my craft room and all the time that I'm wasting, instead of wasting, I'll just tidy up a bit more. And you know, I nearly finished the whole of the one section, you know, the desk section of my craft room. And I want to show you what I did. Hold on. Wait, maybe. Um, so, you know, I've been making cards, and I think I showed you that part of what I was trying to do is I got a lot of cardstock in my craft room that I realized has just been sitting there for a long time. And I've got an awful lot of cutoffs. You know, when I've been making other things, I got these cutoffs and they're just too big for me to want to throw them away. But on the other hand, I need to use them. So that's part of what I'm doing. For those of you who have known me a long time, you know that there's a reason why that wouldn't come out. That I am an artist, and this is like I started to take my artwork and turn it into cards. So you see, like this. And I actually was amazed because now I'm learning to make all sorts of different frames around my cards. All right. It's all design work that I do while I'm waiting. And then I was thinking, you know, even with the brown paper, I had artwork that would fit beautifully in there. And then I was really disappointed. I was trying to make some bee cards, you know, like be happy, be productive, be whatever. And what I found was that as much as I loved this as a design, anytime that I printed it out, it was smudging, all right? And then what I did, and this is a major step forward for me. I wonder if I can show you. Don't know if you can see that. But now this is actually cut out. I learned how to cut out that very complicated shape, and then also how to make that background. So this is like layers of cutting, and then of course cutting out this shape on here. And it was just like all the time I'm waiting for these things to print out. I'm busy tidying. But then I also learned how to make the matching envelope from card. And that was so exciting. You know, it's just like, and then scraps of paper for the inside, just, you know, cut with the pretty scallops. So you look at it and you go, I could waste all this card and still have it sitting in my house for the next 5 years, or I could do something productive. I'm not going to pull these out, but can you see the Christmas ones that I recycled? Jody, do you recognize that one? So you see, there was not only incredible creativity going on, but also I thought, what have I got too much of the house that I need to downsize? And the answer is, I have got way too much artwork and way too much cardstock. Answer, make cards. And then I thought to myself, why not make cards for people as Christmas presents this year? That everybody gets a set of cards. We all need a set of cards, right? Um, you know, and so it's just like, that to me was, like, that's a no-brainer. I've got plenty of time. And I'm now going to make, for my sort of giveaway presents, a set of cards for everybody. And is it a less than present? No, I think it's a more than present, because if every one of those cards was handmade, I'm pretty certain that there is value to that. So I felt really grateful to have my cutting machine, because it does inspire me to be creative. It does, by the way, once I get working on it, I don't want to leave it, because it's so intense. And obviously not everyone cuts brilliantly. It's fairly, you can probably imagine that cutting that window frame takes a lot of patience. And I would think I think I've cut about 6 of those this week. I think one set of 2 I had to throw away. Funny enough, it went wrong on both the up. I do 2 on a sheet, and I had problems with both the upper and the lower one. And it was just like, okay, that doesn't work. Move on. So I'm really grateful to have the time to be able to do that. I'm really grateful that I am retired and that I can do that. Does that make sense? Plus, all right, Jeannie's saying, I love homemade cards. A wonderful idea. That's what I thought, Jeannie. I thought, there are a lot of people in my life that probably need a thank you card. And if you make them generic, so they're not, the word, there isn't wording in it, they're not saying happy birthday or something, they can use it for whatever. And to me, I know it brought me incredible peace of mind. It was just beautiful to sit there. It's actually one of the coolest rooms in the house, until the uh, the air conditioner kicks in. It's really nice and cool in there. And also, there's something about being away from the computer and the television. Although I'm on the computer, I'm not doing the same things. I'm only using the computer to do designs with. And then the other thing I want you to think about is, I will sit there and go, what do I need to change in here to make this work better for me? I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but when you originally set up your kitchen, you think this is where the cup should be and this is where that should be and whatever. But as you live in it, you realize it's in the wrong place. I cannot tell you, I used to have my pots and pans in the drawer. Now, that drawer over there, all right, close to the oven. I now have my pots and pans over here. Why? It's really weird, because I use the drawers in this much more often. It's really strange. It's farther away, but it's closer to what I'm going to need next, which is 9 times out of 10, some water. right? Get out a pot, put some water in it, and then put it on the stove. Makes sense. And so I changed that over and I put completely different stuff in the bottom there. So do you understand that in order to find the time to play in my craft room, I needed to let go of some things that were due to be done this week. Right? But here is the interesting thing to me. I could not believe that working in I think you all know I do things in rotation. All right. I will sit in the craft room until I need to get up to use the washroom. And if you're on diuretics, which I took a couple of times this week to get rid of the water, you get up a bit more often. But I never go to the washroom and go straight back to where I was. I always try and do a rotation and, put another thing away, take one other thing from one room to the other, things like that. What I was amazed at, how many steps I got in whilst I was tidying up in the craft room. Because it felt like I was just sitting there doing nothing, but I was sitting on a bouncy chair. How many of you know a ball chair? How many of you know that just bouncing on a chair, I am using a lot of muscles to keep balance, right? You've got to keep balance. And also because it bounces. So I'm using a lot of thigh muscles and stuff like that. And then I sort of scoot. It's on wheels. So I scoot from doing this work here over here to use the computer. And then I scoot back to, make the cards and do the next step. I was amazed how many steps I put in just sitting there. It takes a lot of balance and very good for your posture. All right. I can feel that my posture is a lot better. But remember as well that I bought the little mini bike, the under desk bike. I want to tell you that I am so grateful, Jody, for you talking to me about your elliptical. And as I said, I didn't intend to get the bike version, but I accidentally did. But I'm happy as can be with it. I have gone from about 3,000 or 4,000 steps a day to feeling like I haven't really done enough if I haven't done 10,000. That is the difference. And the joke is I just use it to top up, right? Normally I will get up in the morning. I even did 15 minutes this morning when I got up. And normally that wouldn't be part of my routine. But I don't feel like I'm sort of drinking my first cup of coffee unless I'm pedaling, because that's my new routine, right? Take my first cup of coffee, and I take a sip, pedal away, watch the news. Uh, amazing 15 minutes will give me about 1,500 steps. So then what I do is I spend my day, anytime I want to rest, listen to that word, rest. It's a perception. What does rest mean? To me, it means get off my feet. In other words, don't be standing. So I sit. But there's nothing to say that I can't sit and pedal at the same time. Now, one of the problems that I had was I need to keep check of my heart rate. All right. And is it, is sitting in normal? Is it in fat burn? Is it in cardio, or is it peak? You don't want to be in peak for too long. That requires that I have my watch, which is fine. But, if I'm doing an hour or two, I don't want to have to wear my watch and put my hand on my leg so that it counts the pedals. Makes sense? So what I've learned to do now is I take off my watch. I tell you, it's amazing the things that the mother of necessity is the mother of invention. What I do is when I get onto the bike now, I take off my watch and I put it between my Birkenstock, all right, like this, and my foot goes here, and then the watch is taking my blood flow, and it's doing the pedaling. It is so easy. I just need to change, take my watch off and put it in the right place. But it took me a little bit of creativity to work out how can I do this so that I'm still monitoring my heart rate, but also counting steps. Very clever. Yeah, Jody's saying that's so cool, very creative. Well, it's like I know there has to be a better way. So part of me actually took two more watch straps and see if I could create a longer watch strap, but that didn't work as well as I'd like it to. Yes, Jody's saying, I now feel off if I'm not using the machine to pedal while I watch TV. It feels weird to have my feet completely still. I quite agree. And Jody, I think that it would be fair to say that for a while you're aware of pedaling. And then suddenly there comes this sort of moment where you're just in the flow and you're not really aware of pedaling. But, I binge watch stuff while I'm pedaling because, and then what I do is, every time there's a new episode, I get up and do something. And I'm amazed how many steps I've put in. I was amazed yesterday that I got to 10,000 when I had spent so much time doing stuff. Thursday is my prep for DearMamaSal Day. And then life got in the way, and I didn't get to start prepping for DearMamaSal until late in the afternoon. And I'm going, there's no way I'm going to get 10,000 steps in. But the funny thing was, because of the rotations, I just added doing, 10 minutes of pedaling to my rotation. So each time I went to the washroom, I came back, did 10 minutes, and then spent the rest of the hour prepping for DearMamaSal. You see, it's all about how do I want to look at this? And am I so grateful for Jody getting her machine and teaching me? Now, here's the other thing. You probably know that about the same time, my body started to retain water. And I, as I said, put on about 5 or 6 pounds of water weight because of the heat. But I kept thinking to myself, how much would I have put on if I were not pedaling? Would it have been that much more? I don't know, and I don't really want to find out. But what I can tell you is I didn't waste money on that pedal bike, right? That mini bike. It's like I can feel so much different. And Jody, I am so grateful to you for talking about getting yours and for what you've done with yours. I can't even tell you how many steps I've done. I can tell you this though, that I averaged over 10,000 steps a day last week. Over 10. Isn't that amazing? I think I went for a mini walk twice. It's not about that sort of exercise. It's just literally watching television and choosing to multitask. And the reason I had to find another place for my watch is I want to multitask while I'm pedaling. I want to be able to reply to people or do some research or do whatever. And I knew that I needed to have my watch somewhere else because if I was doing this, it wasn't on counting the steps properly. So there we go. And how many of you can understand that I was so appreciative to be able to go to bed at night and use the bed to lift my legs to help get the water out of my lower extremities at night? Yeah, Jody's saying, I'm very happy that it's made a difference for you. That's what we do. We share our experiences and learn from each other. You've enriched my life in countless ways. Yes, Jody, and that's what I've always said about DearMamaSal. It's not just me, all right? What it is people sharing their experiences, and some good and some bad. How many of you know that I had that problem with the management of the community in which I live, where they are misquoting the law? And I think you know that I decided to stop fighting it myself. It wasn't that I wanted to stop trying to get it right, but I realized I wanted to stop fighting it myself. And I've said many, many times, I keep trying to find a reason why I'm in this community. And I'm beginning to think that maybe the reason is because I got angry about the law not being adhered to here. The and it's really interesting because I notice people are more and more bucking the system and doing what is right, not what they're told to do. What is right, they're right as a, it's, it is really amazing. And I'm going, this has been going on for years and nobody did anything. They just complained to one another. They didn't do anything. And now what I found out, and I'm just waiting for the update on that, I believe because I got um, the association involved now, I believe that if things don't change, that they will take it to arbitration. I don't even have to. That's what I heard this week. I'm just waiting for confirmation of that. Think about that. By going up a rung on the ladder and saying, I choose not to fight this myself, right? Not worth getting a heart attack over. Let me get other people higher up the system involved in this because it's wrong. And I know it's wrong. Or I'm pretty much 99.999% sure that it's wrong. Let me get somebody else working on it. Now, I could have taken it to a lawyer, but why would I spend my money when I can get somebody doing it without any cost to me? All right, because I got other costs, the shed roof, the electrician. But do I know that I'm doing something? All right. I'm not just sitting there complaining about it. I am doing something about it. So can you understand that also when I realized that I could make these cards and I realized I have Christmas cards that I have kept for sentimental reasons, but really, why do I keep them? Right? How many of you put up last year's Christmas cards so it looks like a lot of people care about you? I've done that. And as you get older and more, Jody, you must find that as well, right? When you got sick, less friends around, therefore less Christmas cards. So I got into the habit of keeping my Christmas cards so at least I could put them up in case I didn't get any. Did any of you relate to that? Because it made me feel better and it's so Christmassy. And now what I'm saying is, I'm going to put those Christmas cards to use. I'm going to recycle them and make pretty cards out of them for people. And to me, that is an important thing. And part of me goes, if I enjoy it as much as I do, maybe I will take some to the local old age home. All right. And so people, and let people have them. Make that my contribution. So I was looking at it, and you all know that making a card, it takes a long time, and you will never get paid for that time. Yes, Jody's saying they are so pretty, it seems a shame to throw them away. And that's why I'm recycling them. And I think what I'm going to do this year is when I open up my Christmas boxes, which is where I've got them stored, I will just, take some more out and make more Christmas cards and have that collection ready to either give away as presents for people or, to just donate them. So it's how I see the world. Do you see that is less than a present, or do you see it as more of a present? All right, that's the whole thing. And I thought it's a twofer. I'm using up card stock, plus I'm recycling, not buying new cards. But do I save money? No, not if you factor in the time. But what I've done is I put a lot of love into them, and that to me is important. Make sense? I also made a decision about tomorrow. I've got Yvonne and Wade coming, and I said we'd do a barbecue. But then I thought to myself, I've got a fridge full of cooked food of different sorts. Why don't I, instead of getting out more meat and cooking it, why don't I not do that? Except I want to cook the lamb, because I know Wade likes lamb, and and that will also get it cooked, which means I can cut it up in different ways and then have it to use. But what I decided was, what if I pull out some of the cubes of cooked meat and the meatballs and things that I've cooked, when we've been doing these demonstrations, things that I've cooked and frozen and I haven't eaten yet. And I thought, I think I'm going to do a whole barbecue of warmed up stuff rather than cook it from scratch stuff. And how many of you know there'll be one heck of a variety? From mini meat pies to meatballs with different sauces to kebabs. I've got so many things, and all I need to do is just add some fresh. I will do some roasted vegetables and things with it, and I'll have a complete meal. I know that I've got to make mac and cheese because Yvonne wouldn't consider it a meal if she doesn't have some of my mac and cheese. But, again, what do? I make enough and they'll get some. And I will probably, I've got a couple of mac and cheeses, 1 cup size ones left in the freezer. I might give them the frozen ones to take home with them so they can have my mac and cheese some other time. So see, I had to get rid of my perception that warming up food wasn't a good meal. How many of you know it's going to be one heck of a meal? Right? It's not about less than, it's about why not use cooked food? And we'll just have a smorgasbord of different tastes and things. So I am actually very appreciative that I've got that huge freezer. And I now know that part of my spring cleaning this week was to go to another section of my freezer. It's a chest freezer. And I took another section, 2 sections actually, and went all the way down to the bottom of it and pulled everything out and put it on the floor. And then looked at what I got and reorganized it and put it back again. And, this is like, it's amazing what you find. Jody, I'm certain you found the same thing. You're going, I can't believe that and I found that leg of lamb. I thought I had a smaller piece of lamb, but I don't. All right, so Jody's saying that's very thoughtful. They love to take some mac and cheese home. Yeah, I found that when Laurie came to visit last week, hang on a second. I have these little ceramic containers, and I gave her one with some plants in it. And she said, what is that? And I said, well, this is an impatient, and this thing will flower yellow. But it's, I know that she doesn't have a garden or anything, and she's got a very small space, but, this will flower and look pretty. And the reason I know that is I actually cut some impatient because I love the flower, and I just put it in water to feed it, and look what happened. Can you see the roots growing? So I went, this is amazing. I didn't know you could do that. You see, I'm so grateful for being curious. Yes, Jody's saying, with her big freezer that she's got, she said, that's what we need to do, reorganize what's there. I can't remember what I cooked or baked. I found sweet potato biscuits the other day. Yes. And, it's just a case, the easiest way I found, Jody, is literally, because you don't want the lid open longer than you have to, get some Safeway bags or whatever shopping bags you have, Walmart, whatever, ready. Then open the lid and just take one section out. If mine actually is like in thirds. I do mine in thirds. Take everything out, and if it's in bags and things, that's great. Then close the lid, and then sort out what is on the floor into new bags, and relabel it, and then open it and put everything back in again. That's the fastest way I found to do it so that I don't have the lid open longer than I need to. I wonder if that makes sense. But boy, am I grateful for that big freezer. um, I went out this week. How many of you have noticed that the price of gas has come down? I hope it has where you are. It's come down nearly 30 cents where I am. But is it still astronomically high? Yes. But I made a point of going out and driving, just to charge up the battery of my car. And also, there's something I always used to drive and think. Right, my driving time was my thinking time. For those of you who remember when I used to work, I never ran out of topics to talk to you about when I drove to work or drove back again. And the thing is that I love that thinking time. And I thought about it, and I thought about the perception. I'm driving just to charge the battery. Is that a waste of gas? When I could charge the battery electrically, just by plugging it, putting the battery charger on it and charging it through the electrical system. And I thought, it's so much more than just charging the battery. All right. I just enjoy the drive, I realize I really enjoy the drive, and I see what's going on, and I nearly always end up at a shop somewhere. I sort of go, what is my outing today? What am I going to do? Am I going to go to the dollar store? Am I going to, pick up something at the grocery? Even though I have my groceries delivered, am I going to pop in there and just enjoy being around people? But then, how many of you are going, are you starting to worry about the new COVID strain? What about monkeypox? And I'm going, if I spend my life worrying about these things, I will not see people at all. So now just decide, am I going to wear a mask? And am I going to keep sanitizing my hands? Think about, how do I make it possible? And so I decided that driving once or twice a week is good for my mental health. And therefore, the price of gas is well worth it. I found out that I really appreciate the hot weather because I know this sounds strange. Well, I end up appreciating my air conditioner that I bought this week. I want to tell you, but I also know that when it gets this hot, I have to go out and water my flowers, right? It's not a maybe. It's like they will shrivel up and die if I don't water them, because God's not doing it for me. And what I realized is I've turned that into sort of like Zen time. I've got I literally stand for 10 seconds with every thing that I water, right? And, sometimes I will go between two plants and just water between them for 10 seconds and then move two along and water for 10 seconds. But, all the time I am out getting fresh air. I don't just see it as watering the flowers. I see it as meditation time and nurturing time, right? While I'm standing there, I'm picking off deadheads or doing whatever. And then I just know that's going to take me 30 minutes to 3/4 of an hour every day while it's hot. So it's up to me. I can see it as a chore, or I can see it as meditation time. The other thing is, I love seeing other people do the same thing. I've got a neighbor who's got this incredible English country garden. And, an English country garden is not everybody's idea of a nice garden, right? It's too haphazard. It's not clean. It's not pristine. It's not equidistant. It's like a... But, every time I go past her garden, I love it because it reminds me of the old English country gardens where I grew up, where you couldn't sort of walk for flowers. And they've been there a long time, and they seed themselves, and they look wonderful. And then, there are just a few annuals spotted in between to break it up. But, most of it is self-seeding. I was looking at my back bank, which is extremely steep like this. And to weed whack it is getting more and more difficult for me. But you know, Jody, I have to thank you again because I realize that doing all the work on the mini bank has given my legs extra strength and they feel so much more secure when I'm up there with the weed whacker. I feel, that my legs are stronger. So when I'm on that very steep incline, um, I always think about being going skiing, and when you're skiing, you learn to put your weight on the outside, the inside edge rather, to the slope, right? And so what I do is when I weed whack, I I say to myself, "Are you skiing properly?" Or other words, is your weight on the bank side, because that's where your best traction is. If you put your weight on the downside, you're more likely to slip. Does that make sense? So, I look at it and go, I'm really thankful I went skiing once in my life. And did I enjoy the après ski more than the actual lessons? Yep, you bet. The other thing is, I noticed that I used to complain about the amount of moss that was on that bank. And now I realize that I like the moss. It doesn't grow like weeds. It doesn't grow up, it grows sideways. I like that. Think I need more of that on the bank. Do you understand? So now it's about, hello, moss. Please seed yourself a bit more. I'd like that whole bank to be mossy so I don't have to think. The other thing I notice is that it kills a lot of other things. It just sort of grows over the top of them, I think. So we'll see. So I look at my life and say, it is really interesting how my perception of things just makes a difference in whether I enjoy my day. Hi, Jenny. Good to see you. I'm fine. Thank you, honey. So, I look at it and go, my perception, how I see the world, determines how happy I am. There are people who would be amazed, if they met Erin and saw what she's coping with and her attitude, right? Or Jody, with all that's going on in her life. And yet she probably does more than most people I know and thinks she's lazy, right? And she does this while dealing with pain and chronic arthritis and fibromyalgia and illnesses that most of us would, not want to be dealing with. But she does that as well as. And what she is doing is she is living. That is the interesting thing. She is living every day to the maximum that she can. And, I thought it really interesting this week where one day I was really occupied in the craft room and doing things, and I wasn't as chatty as normal. And it was so funny because Lauren from Australia wrote and said, I can't believe how quiet it's been today. Well, you know why. Sal didn't say very much. And, I realized that she got to find out what it's like when she's very quiet and we don't know what she's up to. So, it's just like we got this little group that sort of talks during the week. Hi, Iz. Good to see you. So look at your life. Look at your life and change your perception. Are you grateful to have a car that needs gas? And are you grateful enough to adjust your life so you don't need to use it as much, so you're actually not spending more on gas than you used to? If you halve the number of trips, all right? If you halve the number of trips you do in your car, you are halving the cost of gas. Intellectually, do you see that? It's all on how you look at it. And I look at my life and go, I know that I am trying to make each day as balanced and productive and meaningful as I can. And that includes spring cleaning. That includes doing stuff I don't want to do. That includes, making telephone calls I don't want to make. But guess when I do them now? I do them at a time when it doesn't matter if I get put on that, music ignore system, while they're not bothering to answer the phone. See, if I go to the craft room and start playing in there, I don't mind if it takes them an hour to return, right? Because I'm busy doing something productive. It's when you sit there wasting time that you get angry, right? It's the same thing, Jody, which is when you're waiting for Comcast to get back to you. All right, as you said, it can take hours. It's a really important thing to know that if you're doing something else, it doesn't matter. And it's like, make the best of your day. You know that getting anybody to help you today is going to do two things: waste a lot of your time and cost you a lot of money. And what I'm amazed at is, think about how to change that. Think about how to change your perception of it. And if you can, you will change your life. I want to thank Jody for coming up with this as a topic, because to me, I realize that to appreciate and have gratitude is what makes my day. And therefore, yes, it was something I could talk about. And I had lots of examples to be able to share with you. Because every day we have things happen that mess with our routine. We have things happen that cost us money. I didn't expect to have to spend a whole lot of money on re-roofing my shed. And I certainly hadn't budgeted for it. And yet, because I'd spent that, I waited to fix the bed, and I waited to fix the microwave and the other things that weren't working when that breaker broke. So, you look at it and you go, isn't it funny how much I appreciate waiting for that? Because I ended up halving the cost of an electrician, because I was going to need two. One to fix the breaker situation, but the second one to fix the bed, a bed specialist. I didn't need a bed specialist. I needed an electrician who understood wiring. And he fixed it. In 15 minutes, it was done, all working again. And I would suggest that most of the time he spent was with duct tape, duct taping the wires up so that my Clarence the cleaner wouldn't do it again. It's just like, isn't it amazing? Isn't life wonderful? And if I don't have to buy gas as often, isn't it? I don't mind spending that much money, because it isn't any more than I would normally spend. Why? I've halved the number of trips I do. Think about that. It's all about, can you adjust to what is? It is what it is. And by the way, it's not anybody's fault. It's across the world that this is happening. Right? It's not just in the States or in Canada or whatever. Everybody is struggling. And then I want you to just think about one more thing. We are in the top 5% of the world, and we are complaining. Can you imagine what it must be like in rural Africa, where their only source of water is drying up? And that is, they rely on that to survive. Or rural places where did I read somewhere that Lake Mead has gone down so much that they're beginning to find shipwrecks and things in Lake Mead? I mean, hello, how did the ships get there? But it's like the world is changing. And if we don't understand how much it's changing, if we are in denial of that, we are going to be very unhappy people. And here's my final tip for the day. I am not good about brushing my teeth and turning the water off. I don't know if any of you relate to that. It's still one of those things where I just. And then I went, how can I be more mindful of how much water I'm wasting? That was the question. Be more mindful. And so what I decided to do, some of you are going to love this one. I decided to put the plug into my sink while I washed my teeth. And what I found was, because the water is running, you start to brush your teeth and you're watching the sink start to get water in it, you automatically turn it off. You see, I am wired not to have a sink overflow. I'm not wired to stop the water while I brush my teeth. Interesting, right? And what amazed me was, now I just automatically put the plug in and I start brushing my teeth, and I watch the water. I go, no, hang on a second. Let me turn that off. And then I brush my teeth and I spit out, and then I run a little bit of water. It has completely changed the way I use water to clean my teeth. Jeannie's saying, yes, world is changing, but I regret a minority are trying to change some things, such as gender. Oh, I see. And you're saying, I still say mother, not birth parent. Right. And that's your right. And the same thing, Jeannie, as, but the question is, will your grandchildren, not what you will do, because you are of an age, right? But will your grandchildren talk about birth parent rather than gender? And that is the same thing. I am pretty certain that 50 years ago, we could not imagine that the world would stop smoking, or the majority of it, any more that we thought that we could cure polio around the world. When you look at it, things change because of the next generation. It took 2 generations for us to stop smoking. And people still do. I still have at least one of my friends smokes. And the difference is, I don't hate her for it. Why? I was a smoker. I know how difficult that is. And by the way, I look at it that it is important. It's interesting. Jeannie's saying, if the minority attempts to make this change, the majority must speak up. But how does it become the majority? What are you going to feel when the majority says, this is what we want? Will you then be saying, but the minority must be listened to? You see, it depends which side of the argument you sit on. And I believe that every change that we've ever had, was because the minority stood up and fought for it. The reason that any change has been made is one person started to squeak. How many of you remember the days when Greenpeace was frowned upon? That they were just rabble rousers and troublemakers, and and now you look at what the world is doing. We should have listened to Greenpeace a lot earlier, right? But they were the minority. But then slowly, more and more people agreed with what Greenpeace was doing, and now it's no longer, this weird organization. So think about that. If those people hadn't stood up for that right, I think about, would Netflix have ever happened, right? If some people hadn't pirated movies downloading, and then remember, Netflix started by letting you have a DVD for as long as you wanted it. You didn't have to return it within the week. That's how Netflix started, in the days when we all went to Blockbuster to get our DVDs or videos, right? Think about that. They were the little guys that made a difference. And then we all decided, hey, why can't we just watch what we want to watch, not what the studio decides we want to watch? And that's what created all the people who illegally downloaded movies and illegally downloaded shows, were the people that led to us having streaming services today. So when you look at it, yesterday's illegal is today's, thank goodness we have got streaming services. We no longer have to waste gas going to the store. Yes, Jody's saying, I remember Greenpeace being in a minority. But Jeannie, I hear you, and you have every right not to want to change. And Jeannie's saying, changes in language are powerful and change ideas. Yes. I want to tell you that I can remember when I couldn't understand why anybody would want to be called Ms. rather than Miss or Mrs. Right? I'm old enough to remember that. And now I get quite upset if somebody calls me Mrs. It's just like, no, I'm not. I'm not married. Um, and it's a change of our lives continue to change whether we like it or not. And what you have to decide is which side of history do you want to be on? I am still very proud to be a hippie. Of that generation of hippies where we just didn't like what was going on and we changed the status quo. And the world has never been the same since, maybe. Jody's saying, I remember when we had to send back the Netflix DVDs in a red envelope. Now look at it. Yes. And she's saying they're a major player now and developing original content. Well, actually, they are being outstripped now in some ways. And I hear they're about to bring in a cheaper version of Netflix. Did you hear that? Because other people are coming in with cheaper versions, which are advertising supported. Right. So the very reason we wanted streaming was because it didn't have ads. But now there are enough people. Now we've got the concept. I want to watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it. But now they're saying, now you get to see it with ads. And I'm going, that defeats the whole reason why I like streaming services. But okay, I'd rather pay the extra money and have it without ads. Thank you. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, it's all about how you see things. It is all about how you see it. The world can be a scary, frightening, nasty place if you want it to be. Or you can be so grateful for everything you have, every bit of technology that makes your life easier. Excuse me. And I look at it and go, we all get to choose how we see life. And I love the fact that change keeps happening. I do not see change as necessarily negative. I see change as keeping up with what is really going on. And when we are blind to those things, when we insist on the status quo, that we keep everything the way it was, then I'm not saying change for change's sake either. But what I'm saying is let's make sure that we see the world the way that we want to see it. The truth is our version of what we see, right? We will always support our point of view with our arguments. That is human nature. So if you want to be at peace, understand other people have a different point of view, and that's okay. That is okay. I choose to be at peace and watch the world change and enjoy what I can every day. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, take it easy, guys. This could just be the beginning of our new world order. Have fun. I appreciate you all for being here and for those that will watch it in the replay. And thank you to Jody for looking after me. We'll see you again this evening. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, live a peaceful life. Bye-bye for now.